You are listening to the Mad Music Marketing Minutes podcast with your host, Billy Gryzak. Brought to you by MusicMarketingMind.com. Personal music career support services. The show starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, welcome back again to the Mad Music Marketing Minutes. It's your host, me, Billy Gryzak, the Music Marketing Mind. I am so freaking happy today. I have someone on the show that I've been dying to talk to and not just have like a private conversation, but actually share the conversation with you. And we have today Cari Cole. And if you're not familiar with Cari, I'm going to let her tell you about herself right now. Hello, how are you today?
Hey, Billy, very good. Thanks for having me.
So, I know who you are. I take that back. I didn't really know who you were until Jonay Williams had her Tele Summit. Was that about a year ago now? Has it been that long?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wow, I can't believe it. And you were one of the guests on the show, along with folks like Bob Baker and Madeline Sklar, a bunch of other biggies. And I was so impressed with the things that you said. I started to visit your website. I got on your mailing list, and I'm amazed at all the different things you do. I guess a lot of people know you as kind of a vocal coach slash guru slash diva. I don't know if you like any of those terms or not, but you're much more than that. But do you mind telling my listeners kind of a little bit about yourself? Tell me what you do and a little bit of your background. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, I am what they call a celebrity vocal coach, I guess. I've worked with a lot of big names, but I've also worked with thousands and thousands of emerging artists. And I help artists find their voice on many different levels. And we can talk about that, artistically, physically, esoterically, and help them build their brand and create success in their careers from wherever they're at, whether they're just starting out or whether they're on their 4th or 5th record and they're trying to create more leverage or, have a better brand out there, and guide them in their careers.
That's really great. And just so people know, you are offering different types of personal and also like webinars and things like that also, right? So it's not just one-on-one. You have a variety of different programs, correct?
Very much, yeah. We try very much to reach everyone. So whether you're someone on a very small budget or a zero budget, we offer a lot of free information. We're doing a teleclass coming up on May 6th. And you can join us at caricole.com, CARICOLE, and get on that list so you get all that free material. We do a lot of promotions throughout the year. And then I do programs online. So we have Step Up to the Spotlight and Fast Forward and Your Exceptional Record. And these are 3 of our programs that you can take from anywhere. You can be a part of our community. You can strengthen your craft on the artist development level. I'm a big believer in artist development, which has really disappeared over the past 10 years and is vitally important, really is the foundation and the cornerstone to breaking through as an artist. And I think that's the one thing that I really focus on, besides, of course, great vocals. And I'm a vocal arranger and a producer as well. So I really help artists really beef up their vocals and step into their own signature. None of my artists sound alike. They all sound different because my techniques and my approaches are to make you sound as unique as an individual as possible, because that's what works in the industry.
Right. Now, is there, this sounds crazy because we'll just get into the vocal part first. Then we'll talk a little bit about marketing maybe after our break in the middle. We have a little break in the middle we do. But is there... and I'm probably open up a kettle of worms here, but is there a right way and a wrong way to sing?
Well, if you're talking technically, yes. And what that means is there's a right way that you don't hurt yourself, and a wrong way that you will shred your chords and hurt yourself. Is there a right and wrong way for sound? Well, an approach. Not really. There's a lot of different styles. What sounds good? is the right approach, right? But sometimes what sounds good hurts the singer, and some singers are more sensitive than others. Some singers can just like plow through their gigs and drink whiskey and, you know, and smoke pot and do all this stuff, and their chords are made of steel. But eventually that kind of lifestyle will catch up with you. So my job is to keep singers healthy and singing correctly from the get-go so they're not injuring themselves. And then also, as you improve your techniques, it's proven, this is not just my opinion, that the singer has not only more endurance, but better range and better tone and better overall sound.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'll tell you, I've heard horror stories, and I'm actually one of them, where people have like totally lost their voices. We're never going to sing again, that kind of stuff, you know. Now, I don't know. Have you ever worked with Meatloaf by any chance?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because I know he went through a situation where he was told he was never going to sing again. And I know he worked with someone in the industry. I didn't know who it was, but apparently he's singing again, and he's singing quite well. You know what I mean? So if damage is done, is there rehabilitation that can be, you know, had then?
Oh, very, very, very much. I mean, there's the Nashville Voice Center in Nashville that is incredible. That's where most stars go. I wonder if that's where he went. That could be possible. But I also do vocal therapy. I mean, if you have an extreme situation, you need to go to the Nashville Voice Center. If you are starting to break down and you're starting to lose your voice and that kind of thing, or you know that you're singing incorrectly and you want to jump that gun and get, you know, be preventative and get ahead of the curve so you don't end up like Adele at the critical moment in her career with not being able to sing for a year or so because of surgery and all of that. If you want to get ahead of the curve and do that, then you work with somebody like me who is a vocal therapist as well as a vocal technique coach.
Yeah, I can't stress the importance of that. I'll tell you, my quick story in a nutshell was back in the early 90s, when there was a lot of work. We were out there gigging like 5-6 nights a week, and long sets, doing cover band mostly, little original. And back then, everybody smoked in the bars, you know? And after the end of, I think it was like 3 months of 6 nights a week, 3-4 hours a night in smoke, I had totally lost my voice. Nothing came out.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. And from that point on, for about 10, 15 years, I had no falsetto. There was nothing. There was no falsetto. In the last 5 years, I've been able to rehabilitate all that and get it back. And I guess what I would recommend to anybody out there who's really, you know, hitting it hard, whether it's in the studio or traveling or whatever, do the preventative and learn. It's almost like, you know, with marketing. You know, we want to try and help people to move their careers along so they don't make all the mistakes themselves, to save them time, save them years, you know? And I think that if more people took that more seriously, it could save them that whole drama, you know, that could come, like you said, at the worst time possible.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the problem. I think, you know, it's a funny thing in this business, but I think, you know, artists, as they're rising, they never really think that they're going to hit big necessarily, you know, and so they're not necessarily prepared for that moment, or they don't do the preventative work because they don't know how long they're going to stay up there. And I've heard this from record labels' mouths. You know, we're not going to invest in the singer because we don't know how long they're going to stay up there. So the singer really, and the vocalist really, has to take it upon themselves to want their voice to last, be resilient, be strong, be able to endure, tour, and be able to sing for the rest of your life. And you made a good point. You know, you had a little mishap and then you were able to rehabilitate and get it back. I've never met anyone that could not get their voice back with diligence and discipline and some attention. But, you know, even on my blog, I've got some articles about, you know, how to stop shredding your vocal cords. There's some very specific techniques that a lot of vocal coaches don't know and don't teach that are really easy to prevent problems. And one of them is, you know, is to stop glottling. So glottling is the number one thing that causes vocal problems. And if you go to my website and you sign up, you will get my Vocal Road Warrior 3-part series. And the first in that series, it's an audio series, and the first in that series really breaks down how to stop glottling.
That is awesome. I have actually a question. I would say, I could be really cool and say it came from a listener, but the truth of the matter is it came from my son, who wanted me to ask you a question because he would like to be a rock and roll lead singer. He's 18, but he's really interested in these guys that sing really high. Whether it's like the hard rock singers or like even like Journey and the melodic singers. He wants to know if you're born with a range or you can actually learn a range.
Well, you can increase your range. I mean, you have a certain limitation based on the length of your vocal cords. So a higher singer has shorter vocal cords and a deeper singer has longer vocal cords. But, people have defied the odds. I mean, a good example, and this is in the classical world that I'm not really in that much, but this is a great example. Classical singers work very, 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 very hard to have the sound that they do. They have to train for 10 years minimum to even step on that stage, whereas in contemporary, we don't have to work so hard. So we can look into that world and we can see the possibility when you have that kind of discipline, what you can create. And Placido Domingo, very famous of the 3 tenors, he's one of the 3, Pavarotti, Domingo, and Carreras. And Placido Domingo, he went from a baritone to a tenor. So the range is the lowest is bass, of course, and then baritone, and then kind of, bass, baritone, barytenor, and then first tenor being the highest. So he went from a baritone to a tenor over the years of his training. So it can be done. As you train, your voice is going to move up. Are you going to sit naturally? When you listen to Pavarotti versus Placido Domingo, Pavarotti is a more natural first tenor. You can hear in Domingo that he has to work harder for that. He can get those notes, but do they come flying out with effortless ease? No. So yeah, can you expand your range with technical training? Absolutely. I've done it. I've been coaching almost 3 decades now. I've done it with many, 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 many singers.
Fantastic. Well, I will let him know. I don't know if he actually listens to my show or not, but I'll tell him what you said. Sounds great. Well, I'll tell you what. I have one other quick question before we take a break, and we're about at the halfway point of the show right now. And it has to do with vocals as a marketing tool because, this is a marketing show and for music. And having an unusual voice, a different voice, whatever, powerful voice is always great, but presenting, the best way to present that and use it as a marketing tool. Do you have any thoughts on that in recording or in performance?
Sure. Let me make sure that I understand what you mean. So you mean to feature in your branding, your voice in particular?
Yes, and also like any best practices in a recording environment or in a live environment, which is always horrible, in my opinion, to really get that across.
Oh, okay. Well, the first thing to really understand is that, there's an intangible chord between you and the listener. And your goal is to send energy, and this is going to sound woo-woo, but to actually be able to, in a magnetic sense or an alchemical sense, to be able to reach into that person's heart, right?
Right.
That's the ultimate goal, is to communicate something so deeply and so truly and so, purely that you awaken, that person has a reaction. That's what music is, right? It helps us feel our own emotions. So the most important thing that you do, besides all the technical preparation and all the things you can bring into the studio with you and, the prep ahead of time and the vocal arranger, who you should work with a vocal arranger, of which I am also, is to know that when you're recording, you're trying to send chills up and down your own spine. When you listen back, that there's that magical element that you went that extra, mile in really connecting to your own emotion and your own song and what the hell you're singing about. Because ultimately, that's why some singers can have really great voices and they don't, there's something missing, or people can have great technical voices, but somehow it doesn't touch you, or they can have voices that aren't technically great and they just blow you away, is that ability to drop down into the center of their emotion and what they're singing about and then deliver that. And that's tricky because on a technical level, as a singer, you're always balancing the ball. If you had two balls in your hands, one would be emotion and one would be technique. And the minute you go for the emotion, if you don't have a strong enough technique, you go flat or you go off because you tend to push the voice too much. So it's learning how to juggle those two balls well enough that you can deliver something without pushing your voice so much that you go off. Because ultimately, you have to imagine that person listening to your record, and they can't see you. They're just listening to you. And, they're not watching you perform. So that record, that recording has to be on 10. It has to be on the highest gear, on the highest level that you can deliver emotionally so that you can touch them.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I've always dealt with artists that are musicians first and singers second is they treat it that way. It's like they'll spend all this time on the guitars, getting the right, pedals, the vibes, 20,000 takes. And then they're like, all right, let's get these vocals over with. You know what I mean? And it's what it sounds like. There's no connection. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is the worst thing ever. And I'm so glad you brought that up because it happens time and time again. And, if you do that on your record, if you just throw those vocals down at the last minute, that's what it's going to sound like. And it's never, no matter how great you are, it's never going to land. It's never going to fly, actually. It's never going to take off because you need to give it that chance. I mean, I will spend anywhere from 3 to 6 hours on a lead vocal, to really get that vocal delivered. And so it comes across. Because, it's not like one performance, that's even recorded. This is your record. This goes down in history.
I mean, to be honest with you, I was one of those guys. I always sang because I had to. It wasn't because I liked my voice or enjoyed singing at all. And my first, 10... I have 28 CDs out, by the way.
Oh, my God.
And the first 10 or 12, I can't even listen to them, to be honest with you. I think we had an exchange once on Twitter where you were talking about, finding your voice. And I said, it took me 30 years, but I finally found my voice,
Yeah.
And I actually treat my voice with the same respect that I do my guitar playing now.
Yeah, it's really important. I don't know how that happens, that we haven't, or that people haven't. I mean, I obviously got into training early because I was in a rock band and I could always sing. But then when I started singing over the cymbals, I was like, I'm not doing this right. So I went for training, and I'm really glad I did because I learned the value of it. But I think somehow it's because you don't go to the store to buy your vocal instrument. It's with you. So it's sort of assumed that, because we can speak and we can open our mouth and sing a note, that we should know how to sing. And it's a very complex instrument. And by training, by strengthening it, it's kind of like going to an Olympic coach. If you're going to be an Olympic athlete, you're going to go to an Olympic coach. I mean, you're going to work with a coach because they're going to be able to actually technically help you deliver at that moment. And singing is very much the same thing. A lot of people, I think, are afraid to train because they're afraid that training will take away something. It's the opposite. Training will actually make you a stronger you so you can deliver more emotionally.
Whoa. Now, I got to tell you, I hope everybody goes back and rewinds that last minute or two and listens to it over and over and over, because that was worth the price of admission right there. I got to tell you. Listen, give me a moment here. We have Neil on the line, and Neil's going to tell us a few things about email marketing. And we'll be right back, and I have a question for you, okay? So we'll be right back. Take it away, Neil.
A great performer is someone who takes control of the room and gets the audience involved. As long as you already have them under your spell, why not tell them what they should do when the show is over? Have a specific call to action for the business side of your show. Buy the new album, stop by the merch booth, or download our latest songs are all acceptable calls to action. If you've left them wanting more, then tell them how they can get it. Hey, this tip was brought to you by Only Sky Artists, the creators of Music Fan Attractor. To find even more out-of-the-box ideas like this, head on over to onlyskyartists.com/tips. There you will find the 7 biggest traps musicians fall into when marketing their music online. That's onlyskyartists.com/tips.
All right, Neil, as always, thank you for being a part of the show. And Cari Cole, thank you for being a part of the show today, too. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, I as I said, I do follow you. I follow you on Twitter and Facebook and on your website. And I was going through your feature blogs recently, and I came across a blog you have called 6 Methods for Quitting Your Day Job Forever to Focus on Music, which is cool because there's been a lot of debate about whether or not people can actually have a career, a money-making career, and quit their day jobs on our Facebook group. And I was just wondering if we could riff on that a little bit. Sure,
absolutely. I think that, this blog, 6 Methods for Quitting Your Day Job Forever to Focus on Music, this is what I call a WIG. It's a wildly improbable goal. So I'm just going to start off there because of the way the industry is right now. Artists do have other jobs to support their music. And it doesn't mean that you can't do it, but here's what I'm all about. I'm all about planning and following the steps and creating the actual structure so that you can make an income and can potentially reach that point where you can let go of that day job. But you don't just let go of the day job and leap without really laying the foundation, right? So one of the things that I always say to people is, get paid now for music-related work. Whether you're playing wedding gigs or teaching and running workshops, teaching kids or other artists, helping them to do what they love too. You may be working extra time for a while, but you want to incorporate that because look for your licensing gigs and look for setting those steps down in front of you to actually create work coming your way. And I think the most important thing, there's no blueprint that's exactly the same for every artist. It's different because each artist is different in their personality. Each artist is different in their contacts, who's in their backyard, and each artist is different music-wise and where their music fits and belongs. So one of the things I get into very deeply in my Fast Forward program, we have 10 different artist plans, and they're basically whether you're a touring artist, whether you're a songwriter type of artist, and your strength is songwriting, where are your strengths? And then how to actually start to create a plan. And I help artists strategize in my one-on-ones as well, help them create a strategy for success that fits them. Because, following generic marketing advice out there is a little tricky, right? You have to make it fit you and who you are and where your music belongs. And that's not always easy to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. For instance, I primarily work in the children's and family field of music. That's what I do. And a lot of the generic, build up your fan base and work with Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. Although it can work, my end users are kids.
Yeah.
And I really don't want little kids hanging out on Facebook and Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Now, the parents and the other buyers will, and we can use that too, but I don't believe in a one-size-fits-all magic button.
Yeah, there just isn't.
No. And I think the problem is that a lot of musicians are actually looking for that. They're looking for the easy button or the magic button. That's been a lot of what I hear lately through my group and on Facebook and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you brought up a really important point. I mean, there is no magic button, and I think that There's another element right underneath that you have to be really careful about when you're the kind of person that, wants that quick fix. And, we all do. But if you look underneath that, there's a little bit of victimhood underneath that. And I just have to call it how it is, because, if it was easy, we'd all be rock stars and whatever, living the dream or being able to do our music. It isn't about, it's about the journey, not about the destination, right? But it's also about using your smarts and using your niche and your specialty. Like Billy, you're talking about working in children's music. And some artists are afraid to do that. They like, well, I want to be a rock star, or I want to be, that's going to hurt my credibility, or whatever it is. Absolutely not. The best thing you can do is to go in the direction that is naturally yours and go more in that direction, and then try to carve a niche in that direction. Because if you're sitting around looking for that magic answer, you're probably not, you haven't dipped your toes in deep enough into those waters of your own niche, and you need to get into action. So if you're sitting around looking for, well, how am I going to do this? I feel you. I mean, I'm with you. I get it. I empathize. But the next question you want to start asking you is, okay, where does my music belong? Where am I not looking? Does it belong in a yoga studio? Does it belong in a, where does my music belong? And then start taking action towards that and get in motion.
Did you get in my head and steal all of my ideas today? You are so wonderful. So if anybody wants to connect with you, where do we do that?
Definitely on my website, caricole.com, CARICOLE. You can just Google me, and Twitter and Facebook and all that will come up. And we have a conversation on the Cari Cole Voice and Music page on Facebook, where there's a live conversation there, and on Twitter, and also on the comments on my blog. And make sure that you register on the site and get that Vocal Road Warrior 3-part series. It's going to even if you don't ever work with a vocal coach, that 3-part audio series will totally turn your voice around.
I'm going to make sure that my son gets that right away.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to thank you for all the listeners right now. Thank you. And please, if you ever feel the urge to come back and chat, that would be wonderful.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thanks so much for all the work you do out there for artists. It's really inspiring. You're a bright light, Billy.
My thing is this: they haven't perfected direct to brain downloads yet. So yeah. I figure before I get called back home at the end there, I want to share as much of this as I can. You know what I'm saying? So.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, that's Cari Cole. Well, we're out of here. It's been the Mad Music Marketing Minutes, and don't forget to listen to Music Marketing Monday with Bob Baker and me, Billy Gryzak, every Monday, wherever podcasts are found. Have a great day. Talk to you later, and say goodbye, Cari.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello again, everybody. It's Billy. I just want to thank you so much for listening to the show and remind you that if you enjoy this podcast, you can also check out the Music Marketing Monday show with Bob Baker. That is also available. And if you haven't already, head over to musicmarketingmind.com and get your free copy of my tiny little ebook with one big idea called One Simple Secret to Selling More Music and Merch. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next week.